in an incredibly selfish way, this is one of the aspects of the Trump administration that I actually do appreciate. Because as someone who has consistently been anti-NATO, anti-militarism, anti-war, anti-imperialism, it's a bit reductive to say all of those things at once because they're all the same thing. I have often said over and over again that NATO is a protection racket. Trump says Israel-Iran exhausted from 12-day war, he says, at the NATO Summit.
May Allah awaken the people and help them to see the evil doings of Israel and the United States.
This always makes me happy. This video always makes me happy. It always puts a smile on my face. All right. Let's watch Trump basically Joe Biden's ex-girlfriend here, NATO, with his grubby little hands molesting NATO. This has got to be the saddest thing, okay? Watching Joe Biden turns on the TV, watches this man molest his baby, his child, okay? NATO. This is his life's work, and he's over there getting glazed by Mark Rutte, calling him daddy and shit. It's so up.
We're going to take you to the Netherlands now, where Donald Trump is speaking at the NATO Summit. Let's listen in.
Beautiful country. Coming in, I saw the most beautiful trees. In fact, I want to bring some back with me. I want to also thank, I had breakfast this morning with the King and Queen, and they're incredible people. I said, you're central casting. Beautiful people, great people, big, beautiful heart. And I enjoyed that. And also NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, who's been terrific. He's been a friend of mine.
He's called me daddy.
Wonderful country. Now he's the NATO Secretary General. He's doing a fantastic job. And the Prime Minister, we appreciate everything you've done. And as you know, last weekend, the United States successfully carried out a massive precision strike on Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities. And it was very, very successful. It was called obliteration. No other military on earth could have done it. And now this incredible exercise of American strength has paved the way for peace, for the historic ceasefire agreement late Monday, and we call it the 12-day war. Spoke to a few people. I guess that just sounded like the right name. It was a 12-day war. And we think it's over. I don't think they're going to be going back at each other. I don't think so. Not only have we dealt decisively with the critical threat of Iran's nuclear program, which was what I wanted. I said, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I've said that for 15 years, long before I decided to do the political thing. But we've also reasserted the credibility of American deterrence, which is like no other. The people at NATO said there's never been anything. You know, I rebuilt the entire military during my first term. And we have a great military. We have great generals. Got to know the good ones and the bad ones. We kept the good ones. Over the past 2 days,
Trump being anti-NATO was so funny. He got all these countries to increase military spending while cutting social safety nets. Starmer $70 billion spending for military while cutting few billion for disability benefits. Fuel allowance for poorest workers. Reform going to win in a landslide. Oh, yeah.
was honored to participate in the NATO leaders meeting and also had extremely good individual discussions with the King and the Queen, Secretary General Rutte, and the Prime Minister. Great discussions. Very knowledgeable people. Major focus of our conversations at the summit was the need for other NATO members to take up the burden of the defense of Europe, and that included the financial burden. As you know, it was 2%, and we got it up to 5%. And they said, a couple of them came up to me. One in particular said, sir, we've been trying to get it up to 3% for 20 years, and we haven't been able, and you got it up to 5%.
I think one of the funniest parts about this is that people don't know this was initially a Barack Obama provision. And that's partially the reason why while liberals freaked out about this demand early on, Joe Biden also kept it in place. And now Trump is even increasing it further. Now, of course, there's an issue with this. When he says, I want you to increase your military spending to 5%, he means like buy from us, America, because we're the primary weapons manufacturer. The problem, on the other hand, is that all of these other countries, Germany in particular, are now building their own robust manufacturing capabilities to build their own defense industry. It feels like America is basically creating a market competitor for themselves while also increasing militarism around the world. So, especially because of the instability that Trump has caused around the world, I think the most dangerous aspect of this has been European countries wanting to militarize themselves instead of simply just buying more American weapons to the tune of 5% of their GDP. Trump campaigned against endless war, criticized NATO, and even became the first president in decades to name the military-industrial complex. Now back in power, he threatens Spain for refusing to allocate more of his GDP to NATO and the military-industrial complex.
Very well. The economy is very...
A question on Spain. Are you satisfied with today?
Oh, I think Spain's terrible what they've done. No, I do. They're the only country that won't pay the full up. They want to stay at 2%. I think it's terrible. And, you know, they're doing very well. The economy is very well.
He's like, I'm watching them. They got money. Why won't they give it to me? Buy my weapons. You got the money. You got the money. Your economy is doing very well. Give it to me.
And that economy could be blown right out of the water with something bad happening. You know, Spain is the only country.
That's a threat, okay? When Trump says that economy could be blown right out of the water, if this was a more competent administration, if this was a more competent CIA, if this was a more competent NATO, I could totally see him doing like an Operation Gladio type situation. You know what I mean? Nice economy you got there. Would be a real shame if you were to lose it. I mean, this is Tony Soprano administration. Guys, in an incredibly selfish way, this is one of the aspects of the Trump administration that I actually do appreciate. Because as someone who has consistently been anti-NATO, anti-militarism, anti-war, anti-imperialism, it's a bit reductive to say all of those things at once because they're all the same thing. I have often said over and over again that NATO is a protection racket. That's what this is. And Trump leaves no room for doubt in the way that he speaks about NATO. That's it. When he goes, it'd be a real shame if you don't increase the amount of money you're spending on our weapons that you're buying. Your worst take, in my opinion. At first, I was going to get mad, and then I saw the chatter's name. And, you know, that's a brave hero in the chat, okay? You are allowed to have that name. You are allowed to have that opinion, Ryan. Ryan Ruthless. That's a real NATO head right there. That's Joe Brandon's strongest soldier right there. That's the one NATO AUKUS Five Eyes voter. Ryan Ruthless.
Country that, are you from Spain?
Yeah.
Good, congratulations. You're the only country that is not paying. I don't know what the problem is. I think it's too bad. So we'll make
A question.
Like this right here, NATO is a protection racket. It is exactly the same thing that the mob does. This doesn't mean that there aren't other gangsters out there, the other organized crime elements out there. Russia is one of them, right? But a lot of people point to the largest organized crime unit and say, no, we have to be under the protective banner of this larger gangster because there's another group of gangsters out there, not realizing that you're still under a protection racket. That's all it is. At a certain point, America went to these countries in the aftermath of World War II and said, real nice economy you got there. We'll help you fix it up. Seems like it's been banged up. Banged up, I tell you. But there's gonna be a price. There's gonna be a price. One day, you're gonna have our troops stationed. You're gonna have our guy there. He's gonna protect you. Believe me, folks. He's gonna protect you. You don't want those other guys coming in and breaking your storefront again. Okay? And there were instances where people were like, no, I don't want to do this. Okay? Or there were places, there were countries where they were maybe not on board with this sort of thing. And do you know what happened in those countries? Explosions happened in those countries. Quite literally what Donald Trump is talking about here with Spain, what he's threatening, where he says, nice economy you got there. Be a real shame if there was instability. That's what he's talking about. If you don't have the interest, we'll find someone in your family who does. I do want to watch.
Good evening from the NATO
Joe
Summit
Rogan
at The Hague.
and Bernard Sanders, but
in the Netherlands, where European leaders have been appealing to Donald Trump in the only language he understands, massaging his ego and offering money. The flattery has bordered on the obsequious at times, but that and the pledge to spend 5% of GDP on defence seems to have done the trick. Although Trump still couldn't hide his frustration about some European countries' creative accounting on defence spending, he was more on message than he has been on the threat from Russia and less uncertain about his commitment to...
Bro, they got so much public transit. They even got like little baby trams, dude. Are you kidding me? It's like they're flexing on us.
NATO's founding principle that an attack on one member of the alliance is an attack on all.
The NATO allies
also, Netherlands is so fake. Hop on, hop off.
Committed to dramatically increase their defense spending to that 5% of GDP, something that no one really thought possible. And they said, you did it, sir, you did it. Well, I don't know if I did it, but I think I did.
Well, as you can see, the formal business of the summit has just wrapped up, but the seduction of NATO skeptic Donald Trump has been in full swing here in The Hague. After praising him as a man of strength but also of peace, NATO boss Mark Rutte, wooer-in-chief, compared him to a daddy, helping to break up a playground fight between Israel and Iran.
It's wild to think that these people are the continuation of a legacy that dominated the world. Like, this used to be a proud continent, okay? Empires were born on this continent. And now they sit around and call a moron daddy. Please let me give you more money, daddy. How did things turn out this way? I cannot comprehend how awful the situation is, how awful the vibes are in Europe, on the European continent. What do you mean? That's how empires literally functioned always? Yeah, but these guys were the empire, not the vassals. That's my point. My point is they have reduced themselves to this incredible servile state where they literally say daddy to Donald Trump.
Meanwhile, all the member states except Spain sought to impress by flashing the cash, committing to spending 5% on defence over the next decade. And from the UK, the ultimate attempt to put a ring on it. Confirmation from Buckingham Palace that preparations for Mr. Trump's state visit later this year are well underway. Our political editor, Gary Gibbon, has this.
Another king deployed to woo the president. The King of the Netherlands put Donald Trump up for the night at his palace.
Well, I hope you slept well. It was great.
Before the president went to sleep at 1 a.m. local time, he tweeted out this 1980s parody song from his room. Everyone here wanted a moment with the president. The world waited to hear his latest take on the US attempt to wipe out Iran's nuclear facilities. 4 days after President Trump gave his own instant verdict on the success of US bombing raids on Iran's nuclear facilities,
Completely and totally obliterated.
US headlines proclaimed his own intelligence assessments doubted that verdict.
CNN is scum. MSDNC is scum. The New York Times is scum. They're bad people. They're sick.
They're bad. They hurt the feelings of our big, beautiful bombers. How dare they? How dare they talk shit about our big, beautiful bombers? They bomb so good. They bomb Iran. Oh, the tiny chair. It's amazing.
His team piled in, the denials not always compelling.
When you actually look at the report, by the way, it was a top secret report, it was preliminary, it was low confidence. All right, so this is a...
Oh my God, you got like dickheads like Pete Hegseth over there talking to. I just asked President Erdogan of Turkey about Trump's plan to take over Gaza and expel the Palestinian inhabitants. Video soon. I mean, if Michael Treacy thinks that the watermelon salesman, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, is actually going to turn around and give him a decent answer, he's out of his dang mind.
You make assessments based on what you know. They
And
don't...
it said it could be very devastating, very serious.
Moderate to severe, and we believe far more likely severe and obliterated.
The intelligence was very...
Dude, none of those things are technical terms. Like, I'm going to run this back. I want to hear
What you know, they
And
don't...
it said it could be very devastating, very serious.
Moderate to severe, and we believe far more likely severe and obliterated.
The intelligence was very inconclusive. The intelligence says we don't know. It could have been very severe. That's what the intelligence says. So I guess that's correct. But I think we can take that we don't know. It was very severe. It was obliteration.
Also, he just went back on the initial assessment where he's like, no, we destroyed it thoroughly. We destroyed it. We obliterated it. It's actually on fire right now. And then now he's like, well, maybe it was not obliterated. We don't know. The intelligence does not know.
That hit ended the war. I don't want to use an example of Hiroshima. I don't want to use an example of Nagasaki. But that was essentially the same thing. That ended that war. This ended that with the war.
No gavel, but a submarine sonar ping brought the NATO leaders to order.
32 nations stand as one.
To keep unity, NATO tried to keep the conversation to something Donald Trump actually agreed with member states on. They should spend much more, 5% of GDP, on their defences by 2035.
They're so cucked.
We meet at a dangerous moment for our 1 billion citizens.
The entire purpose of NATO's rearmament programme is to fend off Russian aggression. To keep America on side, though, all mention of Russia was kept out of the final communique. The object of today was to get Donald Trump to come here and stay in the room. And
wait, they didn't even mention Russia? Because Donald Trump would be upset if they mention Russia? What is going on? What's the purpose then? Everything is so busted, dude. This entire enterprise is broken.
And thereby conceal NATO's fundamental disagreements with him.
Thank you. I stayed through every one of those.
I want to mention one more time, but all of this money, the increase in GDP spending is a way for America to do this, okay? And to do this money, more money for me. Says you all need a higher degree of commitment. You need to spend 5% of your GDP on weapons. They mean you need to buy weapons from us and give us more of your money. It is a way for the lordship to come. It is a way for the king to go to the lordship and say, let's go. We need more. I need more money. Money. Give me more money. That's it.
Those speeches. Everyone. And some were good and some weren't quite as good, right?
After a meeting with President Zelensky, Donald Trump's language on Ukraine, for today at least, seemed to edge very slightly closer to the central NATO view.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
General Kane.
Yes, he has said that Mr. Putin has territorial ambitions beyond Ukraine. Do you view that in the same way?
Possible. I mean, it's possible. I know one thing he'd like to settle. I consider him a...
I mean, you can't say no. You're at the NATO summit. That would kind of undermine the whole purpose of this entire franchise, don't you think? he can't say no to that here. Maybe back home he'd be like, no, because I've stopped him. He trusts me. Vladimir and I, we have a very close relationship. He does look extra orange today.
A person that's, I think, been misguided. I'm very surprised, actually. Where are you from?
I'm from Ukraine.
Oh,
so my question to you is whether or not the U.S. is ready to sell anti-air missile systems Patriot to Ukraine.
We're going to see if we can make some available. You know, they're very hard to get. We need them.
Yeah, he's like, oh, well, it's too bad for you. We got to give them to Israel. Israel needs them. You know how they are. You know how crazy they get. And then you see the Iranian missiles. They hit very hard, very fast, faster than anyone's ever seen before. We need to give them to Israel.
We need to now push harder on Ukraine. And I think that reflects the mood in the room, and that it's time for Putin to come to the table. And so that's been the subject not only of the discussions in the summit, but actually of many of the discussions over dinner last night and in the margins.
There's scepticism about whether member countries really will get to 5% of GDP defence spend, 3.5% on core defence. Though only Spain openly wriggled out of the commitment, others sounded keen to follow.
We will certainly also try to achieve our capability targets and, if possible, spend...
Bro, you're like, what do you... Oh, these are like incredibly well-read individuals, you know, experts at statecraft, been around the block, and they're just over here all just going, yes, very nice. We are going to do everything we can. It's
less than 3.5% of our GDP.
Oh, I think Spain's terrible what they've done. No, I do. They're the only country that won't pay the full up. They want to stay at 2%. I think it's terrible. And, you know, they're doing very well. The economy is very well.
I hope Europeans understand that 5% GDP means bye-bye social democracy. If this did not imply imminent societal collapse and fascist authoritarian movements rising up from the ashes, I would sit here and ask all of the social democrats that have chewed my ear off for the past 3 years about how you simply don't understand. NATO is a very important protective alliance, and you don't have the European mindset. You don't get it. We need it. You know, all of those guys. I want to hear how they feel about this allegiance. You know what I mean? I want to hear about what their society looks like when 5% of their GDP is going directly to buying, I don't know, the newest version of Pilot Decapitator, the F-35 all-purpose multi-role fighter jet. You know, sorry, can't have healthcare anymore. Oh, is your infrastructure crumbling? Oh shit. Well, at least you have some flashy guns that America can just basically turn off when they feel like it. Yeah, now you get a little bit of taste of American-style democracy.
And that economy could be blown right out of the water with something bad happening. Oh, fake news, CNN?
There were parting snarls for the press who'd questioned his assertion that America had obliterated Iran's nuclear missile program.
I think you're reaching the narrow limits of your understanding of the new Lockheed Martin tech that we're buying, trying to not get banned. Dude, it's going to be so sick. No. You don't deserve healthcare. Happy to show you the way, big dog. Is the new Lockheed Martin tech that you're purchasing going to, I don't know, bring the public transit back to previous levels, like maybe a couple decades prior, as you sit around and endlessly yell about Muslims coming into your country? They're the reason why the railroads are shitty, not because this is your spending priority now after decades of bros mad gay for terrorists. Wait, are you talking about Donald Trump? Yeah, Lockheed Martin has unlocked a new technology. It's called universal healthcare. No, but it preventing the terrorists you support and have on your stream from killing more people. Okay, this guy's definitely not European. There's no shot. There's an article claiming these cluster bombs in Gaza. You're just making things up and telling your chat it's obvious law. Moab also doesn't stand for mother of all bombs. This massive ordnance air blast. Oh, he might be. This might be a missile autist. Why are you ignoring the entire part of disabling their nuclear facilities? That's what I'm saying. They said that from the start they wanted. In air quotes, genocide. Yeah, dumb white man is right. All I said was have fun, Europe. You will experience unprecedented austerity and the remainder of your social safety nets completely collapsing if you were to spend 5% of your GDP on American weapons. And there are still people who are trying to figure out a way to cope with this, where they're like, no, you don't understand. It's actually worth it because we can kill terrorists. What terrorists are you killing, dumbass? The fuck are you talking about? Yeah, that's after, 3 decades of austerity too. No, but it's preventing the terrorists. Sometimes, not this time though. Yeah. What country are you from, dumb white man? What terrorists are you killing? By the way, kill terrorists is just basically code for murdering civilians in the Middle East, which once again doesn't even yield any immediate benefits for you. As a matter of fact, it doesn't yield any benefits for you at all. It just simply makes other people some money, okay? You don't get to see any of that. You don't even get to reap the rewards of this, even if you were to directly reap the rewards of this, okay? I'm not killing any ? You think I'm Lockheed Martin? Wait, what? No, that's my point. You're not Lockheed Martin. Not dying is a decent reward. Brother, you're going to die because you're not going to have health care. I don't think you understand. Your tax dollars are contributing to the vassal state that you're a part of, purchasing American weapons. Okay? Purchasing American weapons. And there is obviously an opportunity cost there, where every dollar spent on purchasing weapons from the United States of America is a dollar that you could have spent on your own infrastructure, a dollar that you could have spent on your education. The lie that they've told you is that this is good because it's going to protect you in the long run. It's going to, it's going to help you. Meanwhile, you don't see any of that. You've just fantasized about an alternative reality. You have these paranoid delusions where you think like there are people out there over there somewhere that must be murdered with these awesome military gear. They have to die, otherwise they'll come and kill me, when no such thing would ever happen. But in the process, your loser safety nets you might have had. Fear is guiding you. So now you claim nobody's calling for the death of Americans. Calling for the death of America or the death of Israel is entirely different than having the capabilities of actually striking, or having the interest in or investment in actually striking America or wherever the you're at. Okay? Those are words. Those are words directly as a consequence of our initial destabilization of countries like Iran, as a matter of fact. You are calling for the death of people that you are calling terrorists. They haven't done anything to you. We have done something to them that warrants them to say death to America. You're calling for their deaths. They ain't done nothing to you. And as a matter of fact, this lie that's been told, and I'm trying to explain this to you, even though you're incredibly dense, this lie that's been told that like those guys have to die is part of the reason why they keep saying death to America. Okay. But also that lie that you believe is causing you to not realize that this endless cycle of restructuring economies around giving the American military industrial complex more money is slowly killing you. If they say they want to do it, we should stop and wait for them to get a chance. Yes. You're a pussy, by the way. You're a ginormous pussy. Not realizing that you are calling for the death, and death that is ongoing over there, by the way. You're calling for more of that. And I'm trying to explain to you in the simplest to understand terms that is a paranoid fantasy of yours. Someone lied to you. You believe that lie. And now you live in this fearful panic state. And that fearful panic state is great for people who rule over you, because that's how they justify endless militarism and endless spending on weapons, money that you generated that could go back to your social safety nets, that could go back to your health care, that could go back to your education. That's it. You have allowed your fear, your unreasonable fear of something bad potentially happening in the future to cause you to not realize something bad happening to you right now by the very people that put that fear in your mind. Okay, yes or no? People are saying death to America/Americans. If so, why should I not be worried about this? Oh, you're American. This whole time I was talking about dumbass Europeans also. Hey, dumbass Europeans, look, this is what you guys are going to look like. This is what you guys are going to sound like. I hope you're excited. This is in your future. You see this dickhead over here? He doesn't even have decent health care. He has to, his health care costs an arm and a leg. Most expensive health care on the planet, because we already have. We already have done this to ourselves, and now we're forcing you to play along as well. Look, that's you in like 10 years, Europe. A little bit of that beautiful, beautiful, uneducated, angry fantasy. Don't you think he thinks you're an America hater? He doesn't comprehend what my argument is. I have good healthcare, Lamau. Again, not everyone has bad healthcare in America. If you have good healthcare in America, you're probably paying a ton of money directly into your premiums, either money that's being taken off of your salary, and on top of that, you're going to pay a ton of money, God forbid something bad happens to you. Why do you think that's the case? We pay the most for our healthcare, and we do not have the best results. Far from it, as a matter of fact. It's not even a "you I've got mine" attitude that this dumbass is exhibiting. He just doesn't understand that it doesn't work that way in other countries, and we are unironically forcing them to exist in the same dumbass ways that we do out here by telling them that they have to spend more on our weapons. Here, I'll put it into the terms that you can understand. No Iranian has ever tried to cancel you for saying the R word, okay? They ain't done nothing to you, brother. You've done everything to them, or at least your government has done everything to them, and you keep advocating for more of that, and they don't care if you call people gay R words. You know what I mean? They don't give a fuck at all. Think about that. No Iranian has ever canceled you on Twitter or anywhere else for calling someone the F slur or a gay R word. You know what I mean? Like, none of that. And here you are demanding that they get bombed. Is that, maybe that'll help you understand that they're just, human beings that are also worthy of dignity. I don't have any issues with Iranians. I have issues with their government funding global terrorism. Dog, what do you think this is? Look at the screen right now. It says NATO, leaders trade money for defense and flattery to win over Trump. What do you think this is? Okay. This is an infinitely more comprehensive, above the, by the books version of what you are describing Iran is doing at a much more limited capacity. Okay. A catchy headline for people like you to talk about. God, I love when stupid people try to say something that they think in their minds makes them look cool. I'm from Belgium, and you're right, start to end. They already cut retirement fund and unemployment to help buy F-35 and useless missile system. No, you don't understand. You don't understand. Belgian chatter, you do not understand. Any moment now, Iran is going to launch ballistic missiles at you. At Belgium. You need those F-35s, dude, any moment. It can happen at any moment, okay? I don't know what you're going to do with the F-35s in that process, because it's not like anti-air defense systems anyway, but who cares? You know what I mean? To provide even better health care. Wait till you find out a lot of people are against funding Israel and also pro-striking Iran. What? Against funding Israel, but also pro-striking Iran? Dude, I don't care. There's a lot of dumb fucks out there, okay? Yourself included. This is not like a shocking revelation to me. You're the average American, okay? A sea of contradicting opinions in your mind rattle away. You could have one opinion and then the exact opposite, the diametrical opposite opinion in a moment's notice. This is not shocking to me. I'm a fucking political commentator. I deal with dumb fucks like you on a daily basis. I hate my tax dollars go to Israel and their BS. I also hate Iran funding terrorism in the area. Okay, if you hate that your tax dollars are going to Israel and their bullshit, don't you realize that that's us funding terror, you fucking idiot? Terror and violence that requires some sort of response in terms of self-defense from people like Iran? Or do you simultaneously think, oh, I hate Israel and their fucking BS, but also the Lebanese population don't deserve to fucking fight back against that sort of thing? Oh, what's that? Oh, that's called Hezbollah. That's us funding terrorism. I still don't want people calling for my death. I don't think you will ever understand why people are calling not for your death individually. I think the next time you stand behind a wheel, that given how fucking stupid you are, you might already cause that on your own anyway. Don't worry about Iran, brother. Okay? Don't worry about Iran. Trust me. Worry about breathing manually, okay? Lest you forget and then accidentally perish.
He is not nice at all.
President Trump said he had new evidence from Israel's nuclear authority to back him up. President Trump said he'd warmed to
Hasan completely dismissing humanitarian standpoint, part 100. You think there's a humanitarian standpoint here to fucking justify bombing Iran because of almost 100 years or 50 plus years of fucking destabilization that has understandably developed resentment amongst Iranian society that say death to America, not necessarily death to Americans. How many Americans has Iran directly killed? Like maximum damage from Iran hostage crisis, okay, many decades prior. Why did that happen? Joyanne Reed had a great, very short, very concise explainer for it. We decided Iran can't have autonomy. We decided Iran is not allowed to make an audit on their own personal oil reserves. What is this? What do you think Ethan will say about this? Ethan? What do you mean? Ethan Nestor? He's a homie. He was at the ICE out of LA protest with me the other day. I don't know what that has to do with anything.
To the NATO leaders in the room. But he started trade conflicts with most of them. They know his mood can swing fast and decisively. And they had to park or hide many central military alliance to get through this meeting and keep him from signalling discord to the enemy to the east.
Well, while President Trump said both sides in the Israel-Iran conflict were tired and exhausted, wanting to go home, the ceasefire he's brokered appears far from sturdy. And there is confusion, too, over exactly how much of Iran's nuclear program was actually destroyed in the US attack, with doubts over its efficacy expressed in that leaked intelligence report. President Trump, however, clings to his belief that every facility in Iran capable of developing a nuclear weapon has been wiped off the map. From Tel Aviv, here's our chief correspondent, Alex Thompson.
Obliteration there certainly is in Iran, no question. This one of many apartment blocks struck in Israel's 12-day war. But it is obliteration of Iran's nuclear program, which is the Trump mantra.
Total obliteration.
Obliterated. Complete and total obliteration. Obliterated.
Cue Israel's Prime Minister addressing the nation late yesterday, saying an historic end to the threat of national annihilation, no less, has been achieved.
We destroyed. It's so funny. It is pretty hilarious how stupid the average American is, who like immediately was like, oh well, they're saying death to America, so like we should kill all of them. we should blow up their nuclear facilities. Okay. You say death to Iran. Should they nuke you out of orbit, dumbass? Not only do you say death to Iran, Trump posted bomb Iran, you know? Should they obliterate you? If anything, they have more of a cause to do that to us than we do to them. We them over. That's why they say death to America at most. That's the maximum thing that they can do in retaliation, is just be like, I'm angry with this country that destabilized my nation. Iran cannot be allowed to build nuclear weapons. I mean, one day they will, and it will be entirely Donald Trump's fault. But at least on that glorious day, the Iranian nation will finally achieve sovereignty and will be rid of external forces such as the ever-present threat of Israel. You know? That's my take. And America set the stage, okay? We did this. We had an opportunity to make sure that Iran never built nukes. We could have totally normalized relationships with Iran. We could have allowed them to exist on the planet. But Israel had different opinions. So now they probably will engage in nuclear proliferation in an act of self-determination. Straight up. Clip it and ship it if you want. Go ahead. Argue against me. Talk about the pure fantasy that if they build a nuke, they're going to use it on us. The entire purpose of building a nuke at this point is to not be nuked. If you use your nukes after you develop them, then you will get nuked. Therefore, it would defeat the purpose. It's nuclear deterrence. Look at North Korea. They got nukes. Ain't nobody bombing them, right? But too early income. As it stands, I will go so far as say if Israel doesn't use nukes, very unlikely that Iran will use nukes. Iran is infinitely more restrained and infinitely more diplomatic than Israel, you know? Wow, so many hate messages sent my way. I know you're a real victim, dude. Oh no. Did somebody say mean words to you on the internet? Bro, come on. I get called a terrorist all day. You know? It's not appropriate, chat. You guys hurt his feelings. He just simply wanted to behave like Donald Rumsfeld in the chat. He wanted to, for a brief moment, behave as though he works at the Pentagon. You know what I mean? And now you guys are saying meanie bobini words to him, you know? Iran must not ever have nukes.
The main enrichment facility at Natanz, the uranium conversion plant at Isfahan, and the heavy water installation at Arak. Our friend, President Trump, stood alongside us in an unprecedented manner. On his order, the US military destroyed the enrichment facility deep underground at Bordeaux.
But that was before the leaked military report suggesting Iran's Fordow underground nuclear facility had not been obliterated, its national nuclear program only put back 6 months. First that claim, and then, hardly a coincidence, a counterclaim this afternoon from Israel's Atomic Energy Commission, which assesses the war
has set back Iran's ability to develop nuclear weapons by many years.
In Tel Aviv, the former commander of Army intelligence on Iran gave us his battle damage assessment.
I really hope that we create a great damage and the regime understands that it's not just about the nuclear weapon, it's about the regime itself, the security of the regime.
Oh, and so it's not about the nuclear weapon. Yeah, the assessment is, I really hope. That's right. It's not about the nukes, but also because regime itself, it is delayed by years.
And they won't do it in the near future. I think that they will go back to the nuclear program in the longer term. And then, of course, we will have to do some operation in order to stop them.
And in Tehran...
No, you won't. Without Big Daddy America in tow, you won't do shit. It's really funny that European countries or people that live in like America are terrified of an Iranian nuke, and there is a higher likelihood of getting nuked by Israel than Iran. Have the ballistic missile launching capabilities of reaching anywhere beyond Eastern Europe, okay? At most. Israel, on the other hand, does have that capability. And they also have nuclear warheads. And they're also psychotic. They are way more psychotic than Iran. Obviously, you will never understand that. You will never agree to that because you're like, no, those are scary Muslims. But Israel is way more insane than Iran. Iran ain't doing ethnic cleansing. Israel is. And they're armed with nukes. And they constantly demand more of our tax dollars. I mean, if you live in America, yeah, you have a higher likelihood of getting shot at school than getting nuked by either Israel or Iran, let's be real. But
Iran today, Iran's parliament voted against future cooperation with the IAEA, the global nuclear watchdog. From the religious leaders, where power really resides, though, the message, we have the right to peaceful nuclear power.
Yeah, they pulled out of the International Atomic Energy Agency, which, you know, obviously makes sense.
Back in Israel, Trump's obliteration mantra just won't cut it with the far right, reinvigorated in their view now that only overthrowing Iran's ayatollahs, regime change, will suffice.
We need to continue working hard to bring down the regime, and we shouldn't talk about it, we should do it.
A funeral this afternoon in Tel Aviv.
And they still getting their diaper brigade smoked, by the way. I cannot. Dude, I watched that video off camera. That shit was crazy. Boop. Drops it right on top of the tank. That's so wild to me, dude. He said, Kobe.
From the other war, Gaza. 20-year-old Ronald Ben Moshe, one of 7 soldiers blown up in the Strip yesterday. This, the news dominating here today, not Iran's nuclear ambitions.